The following is an excerpt of H.P. Lovecraft's short story, The Call of Cthulhu, read by Joshua Campbell. Well, we've covered the more grounded horror stories of authors like Edgar Allan Poe, but now we're going to jump into the more, as it's known, cosmic horror. This is the kind of stuff that deals with just existential nightmares. And who better to be known as the father of that sort of genre than H.P. Lovecraft himself? Born in 1890, H.P. Lovecraft, or Howard Phillips Lovecraft, actually never found much success as an author in his life. He lived only to the reasonably young age of 46, and outside of submitting his story to certain magazines, he really wasn't known as a popular author back in the day. However, his stories have definitely aged well through time, as if you look at any kind of modern short stories, be it through more traditional authors, or through things like online short story writing communities and the like, you're going to see a lot of inspiration with his sort of stuff. One of his most famous works, however, has to be The Call of Cthulhu. The story itself is written quite interestingly, both in the first person, and serves as more of a recounting of all sorts of information about this fictional, mythical creature that this narrator happens to stumble across during his investigation. Nevertheless, here is a short excerpt of The Call of Cthulhu. Eagerly clearing the sheet of its precious contents, I scanned the item in detail, and was disappointed to find it of only moderate length. What it suggested, however, was of pretentious significance to my flagging quest, and I carefully tore it out for immediate action. It read as follows.
Mystery derelict found at sea. Vigilant arrives with helpless armed New Zealand yacht in tow. One survivor and dead man found aboard. Tale of desperate battle and deaths at sea. Rescued seaman refuses particulars of strange experience. Odd idol found in his possession. Inquiry to follow.
The Morrison Coves freighter, the Vigilant, bound from Valparaiso, arrived this morning at its wharf in Darling Harbor, having in tow the battled and disabled but heavily armored steam yacht Alert of Dunedin, New Zealand, which was sighted April 12th in south latitude 34 degrees by 21 degrees west, longitude 152 degrees by 17, with one living and one dead man aboard. The Vigilant left Valparaiso March 25th, and on April 2nd was driven considerably south of her course by exceptionally heavy storms and monster waves. On April 12th, the derelict was sighted, and though apparently deserted, was found upon boarding to contain one survivor in a half-delirious condition, and one man who had evidently been dead for more than a week. The living man was clutching a horrible stone idol of unknown origin, about a foot in height, regarding whose nature authorities at Sydney University, the Royal Society, and the museum in College Street all profess complete bafflement, and which the survivor says he found in the cabin of the yacht, in a small carved shrine of common pattern. This man, after recovering his senses, told an exceedingly strange story of piracy and slaughter. He is Gustav Johnson, a Norwegian of some intelligence, and had been second mate of the two-masted schooner Emma of Auckland, which sailed for Callao February 20th with a complement of 11 men. The Emma, he says, was delayed and thrown widely south of her course by the great storm of March 1st, and on March 22nd, in south latitude 49 degrees by 51, west longitude 128 degrees by 34, encountered the Alert, manned by a queer and evil-looking crew of Kanakas and half-castes. Being ordered peremptorily to turn back, Captain Collins refused, whereupon the strange crew began to fire savagely and without warning upon the schooner with a peculiar heavy battery of brass cannon forming part of the yacht's equipment. The Emma's men shooed fight, says the survivor, and though the schooner began to sink from shots beneath the waterline, they managed to heave alongside their enemy and board her, grappling with the savage crew on the yacht's deck, and being forced to kill them all, the number being slightly superior, because of their particularly abhorrent and desperate though rather clumsy mode of fighting. 3 of Emma's men, including Captain Collins and First Mate Green, were killed, and the remaining 8 under Second Mate Jonathan proceeded to navigate the captured yacht, going ahead in their original direction to see if any reason for their ordering back had existed. The next day, it appears, they raised and landed on a small island, although none is known to exist in that part of the ocean, and 6 of the men somehow died ashore, though Jonathan is queerly reticent about this part of his story, and speaks only of their falling into a rock chasm. Later, it seems, he and one companion boarded the yacht and tried to manage her, but were beaten about the storm of April 2nd. From that time till his rescue on the 12th, the man remembers little, and he does not even recall when William Bryden, his companion, died. Bryden's death reveals no apparent cause, and was probably due to excitement or exposure. Cable advices from Dundon report that the Alert was well known there was an island trader, and bore an evil reputation along the waterfront. It was owned by a curious group of half-castes whose frequent meetings and night trips to the woods attracted no little curiosity, and it had set sail in great haste just after the storm and earth tremors of March 1st. Our Auckland correspondent gives the Emma and her crew an excellent reputation, and Jonathan is described as a sober and worthy man. The Admiralty will institute an inquiry on the whole matter beginning tomorrow, at which every effort will be made to induce Jonathan to speak more freely than he has done hitherto. This was all, together with the picture of the hellish image. But what a train of ideas it started in my mind! Here were new treasuries of data on the Cthulu cult and evidence that it had strange interests at sea, as well as on land. What motive prompted the hybrid crew to order back the Emma as they sailed about with their hideous idol? What was the unknown island on which 6 of the Emma's crew had died, and about which the mate Jonathan was so secretive? What had the Vice Admiralty's investigation brought out, and what was known of the noxious cult in Dunedin? And most marvelous of all, what deep and more than natural linkage of dates was this which gave a malign and now undeniable significance to the various terms of events, so carefully noted by my uncle?